Hey everyone, this is Mr. Dunkel. Today we're going to look through the Maryville Matters worksheet and just kind of work our way down the list and make sure that you understand what we're asking you to put in these columns. And so, for instance, in the title section, obviously just the short little topic, of course, your name, and then an image that you might show for a title slide, for instance, if you're doing a PowerPoint. Now, if you're doing a different type of presentation, you may not have an image, for instance. However, if you're doing a blog, you definitely could have a title and your name needs to be on it on your blog. But if you're doing, say, filming yourself like Maya did, then you could put a title slide at the beginning, but you wouldn't necessarily need to have an image of you on the title slide. So the image here in this section is kind of more in reference to the type of presentation that you're doing. So if you're doing like a PowerPoint or something, start off a title slide with an image. We've talked about why that's important before, because remember, the audience is going to be looking at your screen for quite a while before you begin talking. So give them something visual to look at. So that's the idea there. In the explanation of why did you pick the topic you chose, what we're curious about is, this was meant for you to follow a passion, to explore something you care about, an interest you have. So tell us, why. Why did you pick what you did? If you found yourself as one of the procrastinators who's doing like a service project here at the very end, tell us about why did you pick the particular service project that you did? And what did you hope to achieve when you chose it? Kind of goes along with what your goal was. What were you hoping to learn, or who were you hoping to help, and things of that nature. How did you begin? What challenges did you face? What we're looking for here is, did you run into issues with time, run into issues with money? For instance, I have a student who needed to purchase 60 t-shirts, but obviously that cost a lot of money. So that was a challenge, was how was she going to get her t-shirts? And she ended up doing a GoFundMe web page and got people to fund her project, which worked out really well. What materials did you have to gather? And what we're asking you here is, what items did you need to do your project? So for instance, if you were doing a painting project, you're going to need canvas, you're going to need paint, you're going to need paint brushes, things of that nature. If you simply were going to the park to clean up the park, probably going to need trash bags or gloves or things of that nature. So the idea of having this in here is because there's going to be people in your audience who want to do what you did, and they're going to want to know, what materials would they need if they follow in your footsteps. The next one, where and how did you find your materials and resources? This is important that you make sure that you're giving us detailed answers on this. Do not just put Google or don't put YouTube. What we're looking for are actual web addresses that are going to take us to a web page or to a YouTube video or something like that. So give us the full web address. Again, the idea here is for others to be able to follow in your footsteps. Go directly to the website you went to, directly to the video that you went to. Don't forget, people are also resources, though. So, for instance, if you were doing an art project and you went and talked to Miss Drake about what you needed for it, she could be a resource. So you would list her. If you are collecting cans for Second Harvest and you called over to Second Harvest to ask them when you could deliver them, whoever you talked to was a resource. So list the person's name, but also list their title. So for instance, don't just put Tom Johnson, because we're not going to know who that is. But if you put Tom Johnson, comma, Director of Second Harvest Food Bank, then that lets us know because we see his title. Now, I just made that name up, so don't call Second Harvest looking for Tom Johnson because I don't know that he exists. In the next section, how did you do it? Explain the process of what you actually did. So basically what we're looking here is just give us the steps of, what you did. You went out and got your canvas, and again, using the painting situation here, you got your canvas, you got your brushes, you carved out some time on a Saturday, you set everything up, you painted, you used an image to base your painting off of. Again, just kind of walk us through the general process of, completing the idea that you had in mind. This one's hugely important. How did you document it? Pictures, movies, recording, etc. Remember that you have to document what you're doing. We need to be able to see some sort of proof, in either of these ways. You might do a short video clip. Pictures are great because we can look at pictures. You can use them in PowerPoints, but you can also put movie clips in there. Audio recording might be sufficient for some of you. For instance, we have students who have written music for their instrument, and they're going to record themselves playing that music. So that's fine as well. But we need to have some sort of documentation of you doing what you're doing. That way, you're not just standing up presenting and saying, I did all these great things, but I have no proof to back me up. So show us. The next question, why did you choose to document this way? Just this very brief, just let us know, why did you choose to take pictures as opposed to doing a video clip or as opposed to doing a recording? How did it turn out? How far did you get? So what we're looking for here is, just simply give us the idea of, how far in the process you got. If you recall Maya's video, she was looking to do 9 paintings, and she only got 3 done. Which brings us to that next question. Did you accomplish what you thought you would? So what we want to know is just kind of what was your goal for it and how close to reaching your goal did you get? What did you learn? What did you learn about the topic that you didn't already know? So hopefully during the process, you've learned something along the way. The idea of this was to give you a chance to explore something you're passionate about. And so in that exploration process, have you learned a few things? So tell us something that you learned. And then the next question, list one thing about yourself that you learned along the way. Hopefully in this process, you learned something about you. And it's not always positive things. Sometimes you learn that you're not good. You shouldn't procrastinate. Or sometimes you learn that you really don't like, kindergarten students. Maybe you had planned to go do something with them. And then after spending 5 minutes with them, you realize it's like herding cats, and you realize that. And so, anytime we can learn things about ourselves, we grow from that. So think about this process. Think about something that you learned while doing the process. Now, what would you recommend for others? List at least 2 resources for others who want to learn more about this topic. This is real important because what we want you to do is take the information from this question here, where and how did you find your materials and resources? This should be a pretty, exhaustive list. You might have 5 or 6 websites and, several videos that you have on here. But what we want you to do in this section is then take the 2 resources that you think are the best. If someone else wanted to follow in your footsteps, what are the 2 places or 2 resources you're going to send them to? Is a YouTube video, a web page, go talk to this person, that kind of thing. Also, what would you do differently if you could do it all over again? And so some of you, maybe I might start earlier, but think about, if you could do this over again, how would you change things? What would you do to make it better if you did it a second time? And then going forward, how could you expand on your topic if you continued? So think about this one in the sense of if you kept going with this, we worked on it over summer and you had to present again in fall, what would you do to expand it even more? Maybe you were doing watercolor paintings, and then to expand it, you might learn how to do oil paintings or something of that nature. And then lastly, where could the knowledge you learned help you elsewhere? So in this process, no matter what you do, it can help you in other areas of life. So, think about not just academically, but think about, for your family or social aspects or things of that nature. Someday you're going to be a parent, so maybe, or likely would be a parent. So maybe things you're learning here might be something you could use with your kids someday or things of that nature. So kind of, project ahead, think about where you might be able to use the knowledge that you've learned. And so that's all there is for your worksheet. This is what your presentation needs to cover. So when you're doing your presentation, be talking about why you chose your topic, how you did it, those kind of things. And as long as you're covering everything that's in here, you're going to be fine with your presentation. If you have any questions, as always, just feel free to ask.